It was supposed to be just another Friday night. I had finished my shift, the kind of day that left my shoulders tight and my brain buzzing with the white noise of endless emails and small talk. I remember sinking into the worn-out couch in my apartment, stretching my legs across the coffee table as I scrolled aimlessly through my phone, looking for a distraction. Nothing serious, nothing that required thought, just the mindless flick of a thumb through social media feeds. A few videos, maybe a meme that would make me chuckle. That's when it happened. My phone buzzed. A notification from her. My heart, for reasons I didn't fully understand, did a little flip. Not excitement, not joy, just a reflexive hope that maybe it was a casual hi or something light-hearted. But the message that blinked back at me was anything but casual. I gave away your concert tickets to my ex. Thought you'd understand. I froze. My thumb hovered over the screen, unsure whether to read it again or to block it out entirely. I read it a second time, slower this time, savoring each word in disbelief. My brain screamed in confusion. Wait, what? I muttered aloud, my voice breaking the otherwise silent apartment. I couldn't process it all at once. Concert tickets. My concert tickets. The ones I'd bought months ago, planning to surprise her with a night I thought would be unforgettable. And she had given them to someone else, someone from her past. I felt my stomach tighten, a hollow kind of panic starting to build. The rational part of me tried to speak up. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe she meant something else. Maybe No, that's impossible. But my gut twisted in a knot, a mix of anger, hurt, and disbelief. My first instinct was to call her, to demand an explanation, but something held me back. Fear, pride, the knowledge that whatever came out of my mouth first would define the rest of the night. I didn't know. Instead, I stared at the screen, rereading her words over and over. The clock ticked loudly in the background, each second amplifying the surreal weight of the message. I tried to remember if there had been any hints, any signs that she might be thinking about him. I wanted to convince myself that this was just a random act, a thoughtless mistake, but deep down, I knew that wasn't likely. She knew how much those tickets meant to me, how I had planned this as a moment for us, not for some lingering shadow from her past. The apartment, usually a refuge from the chaos of life, felt suddenly stifling. The walls seemed closer, the air heavier, as if they were pressing in on me with the weight of every unspoken word and every choice she had made before sending that text. I paced a little, letting my hands fly through the air as though I could physically push away the anger and disbelief simmering inside. Every scenario played in my head. Maybe she forgot the tickets. Maybe she didn't realize they were meant for me. Maybe she didn't care. The last thought was the one that stung the most. I tried to remember the moments, leading up to this night, the laughter we had shared, the small gestures that made everything feel normal. And yet, this single message threatened to rewrite them all. I replayed conversations, minor arguments, subtle hints, anything that could hint at why she would do this. Nothing made sense. The whole situation was absurd and painful in equal measure. After a few minutes of pacing, I finally sank back onto the couch, phone in hand, staring at the message like it was a riddle I couldn't solve. I knew I needed to respond, but what could I even say? The rational part of me urged calmness, suggested I ask questions, seek understanding. But the raw edge of betrayal made that impossible. I wanted to fire back, to demand why, to accuse, to shout. I wanted her to feel the sting that each word of that text had left in me. Instead, I typed a single line, hesitated, deleted it, and stared at the blank screen. My mind raced through all the what-ifs and maybes, all the alternate realities where she hadn't sent that text, where the night was ours as planned. I could almost hear the music we were supposed to hear, the crowd cheering, the thrill of experiencing something together. And yet there it was, the cruel reality that she had handed that experience to someone else, someone from her past who had no claim to it in my mind. The silence of my apartment was deafening. I wanted to reach out, to understand her reasoning, to make sense of it all. But there was also a strange, bitter part of me that wanted to step back, to let the words sit, to see if she would come forward with an explanation without prompting. That night became a long stretch of internal debate, a tug-of-war between confrontation and contemplation. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time seemed to warp in that moment, and I found myself scrolling back through old messages, searching for anything that might hint at this. Flashes of her words, the way she had laughed at something trivial, the casual mentions of her ex in passing, all collided in my mind. I felt a mix of regret, frustration, and sorrow. Was I missing a signal I should have seen? Could I have done something differently to prevent this? But no matter how I dissected it, no logic could justify that text. Eventually, the night crept into early morning, the city outside quiet, lights dimmed, the world moving on while I sat in stasis, trapped in the aftermath of a single sentence. And yet, despite the hurt and confusion, a part of me couldn't let it go. I needed answers. I needed to hear her side, to confront the reality of what had happened. I knew that what came next would set the tone for everything else: our trust, our relationship, even the image I had of her. I took a deep breath, gripping my phone tightly. My thumb hovered over the screen once more, this time with purpose. The next message I sent would carry the weight of hours of reflection, anger, and fear. And I knew, deep down, that no matter what she said, nothing could erase the sting of that text. It was a dividing line, a moment that would either redefine us or break something beyond repair. And so, with a sense of resolve I didn't fully understand, I typed. "Why?" The screen blinked, sending the message off into the void, and all I could do was wait. The reply didn't come immediately, and in that silence, my mind spun faster than I thought possible. I tried to distract myself, pacing the apartment, replaying old songs, scrolling social media, but nothing could quiet the storm brewing inside me. Each minute that passed without a response felt like an eternity. I imagined her reading my message, seeing the single word I had sent, and either dismissing it casually or crafting a response that would shatter whatever fragile patience I had left. Finally, my phone buzzed. Her name on the screen made my chest tighten. I hesitated, breath held, before unlocking the message. "I thought you'd understand. We aren't in high school anymore. It's just tickets." The casualness of her tone felt like a punch to the gut. Just tickets. As if the months of anticipation, the excitement I had imagined sharing with her, meant nothing. My first instinct was to lash out, to let every ounce of hurt and frustration escape in words that might never be taken back. But I swallowed the venom. I needed clarity more than confrontation, at least for now. I typed carefully, "Just tickets." These were important to me. We planned this. There was a pause before her reply came, and the delay made the words feel heavier. When they appeared, I could almost hear her sigh through the text. "I know. I felt like he needed them more." It's complicated. I thought you'd get that. Complicated. That one word carried more weight than she probably realized. My mind raced. Needed them more. Who decides that? Why him? Why now? The rational part of me wanted to understand, but the emotional side was boiling over. I felt the familiar sting of betrayal creeping in, the questioning of everything I thought I knew about her. I paced again, the apartment shrinking around me. My phone felt hot in my hand, almost like it was burning with the energy of our conversation. I had to hear her reasoning, to unpack this mess of emotions before it consumed me completely. I typed, fingers shaking slightly, explain. Why would you think he deserves what I planned for us? Her reply was almost immediate this time, almost too casual. It's not about deserving. I just thought you'd understand my side. I didn't want to argue. The more I read, the less I understood. I felt like I was grasping at smoke, trying to hold on to something solid while it slipped through my fingers. I wanted to scream, to demand she see things from my perspective, but there was also a creeping exhaustion. It wasn't just anger, it was disappointment, confusion, sadness, all bundled into one. I remembered the nights we had spent planning, the way she had smiled when I told her about the surprise, the excitement we shared over tickets and music and moments we thought were ours alone. And now, in the span of a few text bubbles, it all seemed irrelevant to her. That hurt more than anything else. I couldn't just sit there. I needed to understand the why, the how, the reasoning behind the choices that had upended my expectations. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitant, before typing. I don't get it. Was it worth it to give this to him? To hurt me? Her reply came quickly, almost defensive. It's not about hurting you. I didn't think you'd react like this. I thought you'd see it from my side and let it go, let it go. The words echoed in my mind, mocking me. Was I unreasonable for feeling betrayed? Was I overreacting? I questioned myself, my feelings, even the foundation of our relationship. The emotional fallout was more than I had anticipated. I felt my chest tighten, my thoughts spiraling into doubt and disbelief. I paused, trying to breathe, trying to ground myself. The situation was messy, a tangled web of past attachments, expectations, and unspoken resentments. I wanted to call her, to speak instead of type, to hear the tone in her voice, to see the hesitation or remorse or whatever truth lay behind the words. But I also feared the confrontation, the argument that might erupt if I pushed too hard. Hours passed as we exchanged messages, a dialogue more strained than I could ever remember having. Each word she typed seemed carefully measured, distant, almost rehearsed. I found myself reading and rereading, analyzing punctuation, tone, spacing, looking for any clue that might reveal her true feelings. And in that analysis, my emotions oscillated wildly. Anger, sorrow, disbelief, longing, betrayal, they all collided, leaving me raw and exposed. I realized that this wasn't just about tickets anymore. It was about trust, about respect, about understanding boundaries and intentions. Her choice to give them away to someone else, someone from her past, shattered the delicate balance we had maintained. And yet, beneath the hurt, I felt a strange, unsettling curiosity. What was she thinking? Why would she risk our relationship for something that seemed so trivial in my eyes, but apparently carried more weight for her? As the night deepened, I tried to sort through the emotional wreckage. I thought about our past, our connection, the moments of intimacy, joy, and support that had defined us. Could all of that coexist with this sense of betrayal? Was it possible to reconcile her actions with the person I thought I knew? I didn't have answers, only questions, each more pressing than the last. By the time the city outside began to stir with the first hints of dawn, I was exhausted, mentally and emotionally. The constant cycling between hope for explanation and the sting of perceived betrayal had taken its toll. I felt fragile, vulnerable, and yet somehow determined to confront the reality of the situation, to face the truth. No matter how painful, I leaned back on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the quiet screen. I knew the conversation wasn't over. The emotional fallout was only beginning, and somewhere deep inside, a small, stubborn part of me clung to the hope that understanding could emerge from the chaos, that clarity could replace confusion, and that perhaps, even after all of this, there was a path forward. The confrontation came the next evening. I couldn't wait any longer, couldn't allow the questions and doubts to fester in silence. I called her, the sound of the ringtone echoing in my apartment, each tone a pulse of anticipation and dread. When she answered, her voice was calm, almost too calm, like she had been expecting this conversation and had rehearsed her words. We started slowly, cautiously, circling the topic like dancers, wary of stepping on each other's toes. I asked the questions that had haunted me for the past 24 hours. Why the tickets? Why him? What was she thinking? And she answered, hesitated, explained, backtracked, her words a blend of truth, excuse, and remorse. It was messy, raw, real. And for the first time, I began to see the complexity behind her decision. She spoke about the past she hadn't fully closed, about guilt and the need for closure she felt she owed to him, and how in her mind, giving away the tickets was a symbolic gesture of moving on. She admitted she hadn't considered the impact it would have on me, how my excitement, my anticipation mattered just as much. And in that moment, the anger and hurt that had dominated me began to shift. Not gone, not forgiven, but tempered by the recognition that her actions weren't born solely of malice. I listened, interrupted sometimes, argued at others, trying to piece together the fractured narrative. And then came the hardest part, admitting my own assumptions, my own expectations, the ways I had built a story in my mind that didn't fully reflect reality. I had imagined betrayal where there was confusion, disregard where there was indecision, hurt where there was ignorance. It didn't excuse what happened, but it reframed it. We talked for hours. The conversation ebbed and flowed between tension and relief, confrontation and understanding. I shared my perspective, my feelings of being blindsided, the hurt of seeing a plan so carefully built crumble in a single instant. She shared hers, her guilt, her fear of disappointing, her struggle to balance past relationships with present commitments. By the end, we had neither complete closure nor perfect resolution, but something equally valuable. Honesty. The night ended with silence. Not the heavy, suffocating kind that comes with unresolved conflict, but a quiet understanding. We were bruised, fragile, and uncertain about what the future held. But we were also still here, willing to face the complexity together. It wasn't neat, it wasn't simple, and it wasn't painless, but it was real. In the days that followed, I reflected on the experience constantly. I replayed our conversation, analyzing my own reactions, her words, the moments of clarity and confusion. I realized that life relationships, love, trust, was rarely a straight path. It was jagged, unpredictable, filled with missteps and misunderstandings. And yet, within those jagged edges, there were moments of growth, understanding, and deeper connection. The concert tickets became a symbol, not of loss, but of perspective. They reminded me of the fragility of plans and the importance of communication, of addressing feelings before they calcify into resentment. They reminded me that people are complex, that actions often carry motivations unseen, and that forgiveness requires empathy, patience, and the willingness to see beyond immediate hurt. Looking back, I realized that the incident had changed me. I had felt betrayal, disappointment, and anger, but I had also confronted my own reactions, assumptions, and capacity for understanding. I had navigated the emotional fallout and emerged with a more nuanced view of her, of myself, and of the dynamics that govern relationships. When we finally met again, in person, the air was different. The tension was still there. Yes, a subtle reminder of past mistakes, but it was balanced by a renewed sense of connection. We talked, laughed, and cautiously planned new experiences, small and deliberate steps to rebuild trust and shared joy. The memory of those tickets lingered, not as a wound, but as a lesson etched into our history, a testament to the power of honesty, confrontation, and the messy, beautiful complexity of human relationships. In the end, life rarely gives perfect answers. The concert never happened the way I had envisioned, and the tickets themselves became inconsequential. What mattered was the journey through confusion, hurt, dialogue, and reflection. What mattered was learning to navigate the storm without losing oneself, understanding without excusing, and confronting without abandoning compassion. And as I stepped into the next chapter of my life, I carried that lesson, heavy and precious, knowing that every challenge, every unexpected text, every misstep could ultimately deepen my understanding of love, trust, and the fragile beauty of human connection.